As the U.S. release of Paul Feig's much ballyhooed Ghostbusters reboot looms large on the horizon, I find myself falling into the camp of film nerds that hopes dearly that this totally unnecessary retread of yesteryear's perfection will fade out without a trace to be remembered alongside Troll 2, if at all. The original Ghostbusters was one of those films like The Godfather, Annie Hall, Blade Runner, or Apocalypse Now that just feels like every frame was crafted to perfection. It doesn't need to be updated, and Hollywood doesn't need to be rewarded for crummy rehashes of past glories. That's not to say a remake can't work. After all, Brian De Palma's iconic Scarface is a remake of the 1930s film. Nevertheless, the prevailing specter that looms large over the new Ghostbusters is its professed feminist perspective. As such, the shrill outrage police have been on high alert for those unwilling to grin and pretend to be excited about what promises to be a masturbatory bastardization of one of modern cinema's most enduring classics. While it would be easy for me to join the choir of voices that are merely bashing the film, and I am with them in spirit, I wanted to take a new, more constructive approach with regards to how I comment on the film. After all, I wouldn't want to do something stupid like claim that men evolved to be Ghostbusters. The more I think about it, the more I realize that my problem with the feminism in the new Ghostbusters is not the feminism itself, but rather the way it seems to work against the story rather than enhance it. With that in mind, I want to take a look at how feminist ideas have been applied well in past science fiction films, in contrast to Ghostbusters 2016. I want to emphasize that I am doing this to ride the wave of anticipation surrounding the film, and as such, these comments are based on pre-release materials, leaked information, and the general consensus, both positive and negative, from patrons who've already seen the film. And since it's now Friday and I'm only having time just now to record this commentary, I'll point out that this was written several days ago. If I choose to see the film, I'll give it an actual, proper, and hopefully even-handed review. This video is merely to provide perspective on a number of common criticisms of the film by showing examples of feminist themes done well. I am a firm believer that one need not be a follower of a system of thought or to appreciate the art that springs forth from it. I'm not a Christian, yet I can enjoy the Chronicles of Narnia or Handel's Messiah. I'm not a Scientologist, but I can enjoy the music of Chick Corea even when he's doing concept albums based on L. Ron Hubbard novels. The art is the true God, and whatever robe the acolyte may choose to wear is irrelevant if their faith is strong. Here are 3 films where feminist ideas have produced quality art, and I have no hesitation in saying that I am a wholehearted, passionate fan of all of them. Our first example is The Handmaid's Tale, adapted from the Margaret Atwood novel of the same name. The film tells of a near future where widespread pollution has rendered most women sterile. As such, women on the whole are devoid of rights and assigned to servitude in the houses of the ruling aristocracy for the primary purpose of serving as proxies for the barren wives of their respective patriarchs. The story tells of Kate, or Offred as she's called in captivity, who must serve as one of these concubines, and throughout the narrative we are shown the rank hypocrisies of the power structure in place. The uber-religious theocratic society is actually merely a front, as it is revealed that the more powerful men are given access to secret brothels for their own amusement. The reason feminism works in this film is that the necessity of a well-conceived story mandates a plausible context for the patriarchy that we're seeing. Shallower storytellers might be tempted to simply bank on a grim view of male nature, but well-formed individual characters require more substantial motivation than a simple prejudice on behalf of the writer. By establishing that the shift towards a patriarchal society is the result of a reaction to external forces, it points to a larger goodness in humanity and acknowledges that we have the opportunity to make the right choice as a people. I bring this up because one of the major criticisms levied at the new Ghostbusters is that all of the men are portrayed as either vacuous fools or malicious assholes. If there were some contextual justification for this, it would seem like a problem to be overcome rather than bigotry to be accepted. I would recommend reading Margaret Atwood's original book before seeing the movie. The novel goes into much greater detail about the political climate and circumstances that led up to the dystopia explored in the narrative. Atwood has always had an uncomfortable relationship with hardline feminism, and the book, which reads in places like condemnation of the feminist partnering with the GOP during the Mies hearings on pornography, is definitely a critique of feminism as well, albeit a critique from within. Our next film is Mad Max Fury Road, and it's no doubt the most overtly feminist film we'll be looking at, owing in large part to the well-publicized involvement of Eve Ensler of Vagina Monologues fame. The story simply tells of a post-apocalyptic wasteland where scarce resources are shored up by the War Boys, an army of deranged lunatics. One of the central themes explored in Fury Road is objectification, the sociological and psychological process by which a person's humanity is disregarded to the point that they become, in essence, indistinguishable from an inorganic object. While it's popular among pedestrian feminists to bandy about the term with regards to runway models and adult film stars, Fury Road actually provides a deeper meditation on the concept. Objectification reflects at its core feminism's roots in Marxist theory. In Marx's concept, the workers become utilities no different from the machines they operate, effectively serving the interest of their capital overlords. Fury Road dramatizes this concept by making that objectification literal. The war boys use women as breeding stock and men as blood banks. Their objectification transcends a mere worker-workstation metaphorical concept and literally removes any acknowledgement of their humanity. This is only one of the feminist themes in Mad Max Fury Road. Another interesting moment is Furiosa's encounter with the Vuvalini clan, a group of elderly nomadic women. Furiosa's subsequent frustration and despair could be read as a metaphor for the new wave of modern feminism being unable to fulfill the epic vision of the older generation that inspired them. If you're going to talk about feminist themes in science fiction cinema, there is perhaps no better film to discuss than Alien, which also happens to be one of my favorite movies. This is the iconic story of Ellen Ripley as she battles an alien predator, see what I did there, as the last surviving member of her ship's crew. While it might be tempting to simply say that Alien's feminist message is encapsulated in a kick-butt female heroine, that's just shallow tokenism. Consider the biological nature of the aliens. A creature attacks an unwilling host, forcibly penetrates it, plants eggs in its body, and then the developed offspring bursts out of the host. It is a culture of rape and controlled breeding in which all notions of humanity are voided by a biological maxim of might makes right. As a representation of women's history of being relegated to lifelong baby factories, Alien could not be more blunt. But there's something far more subversive at work here. It is symbolically telling that it is Ripley, a woman, who is able to counter the alien while her male counterparts are horrified and rendered helpless, a message that is reinforced in the second film when Newt is able to survive for an extended period in the presence of the aliens, but even passing exposure leaves Hudson screaming his classic line, "That's it, man, game over, man, game over." The women of the alien world, with the possible exception of Lambert, a red shirt from the first film, are the ones who are able to maintain cold rationality in the face of the aliens' inhuman world, and understandably so. The prospect of being held down and impregnated is something that all women come to terms with, along with the nightmarish psychological baggage that comes with it. The alien is just a manifestation of that psychological baggage, and as such, the persons most able to deal with the alien in concrete terms are the ones who have already dealt with it in the abstract. The men, on the other hand, are left dumbfounded and horrified. On this last point, understand this. If I were to learn that Alien was being remade with a male protagonist, I would be even more disgusted than I am by this new Ghostbusters garbage because it would contradict and violate the vision of the creator. One scene that's received much criticism from the new Ghostbusters film is one in which the new female team conquers their final adversary in part by blasting it in the genital region. This symbolic castration is shallow, petty fan service for a shallow, petty fan base. Contrast this derogatory slap in the face with the more insightful and profound ideas discussed here. It might be tempting to respond that the aforementioned films are dramas while Ghostbusters is a comedy and not intended to make such heavy-handed statements about gender relations, but that misses the point. And there's certainly no shortage of feminist comedy. Amy Poehler and Tina Fey have been hitting home runs in that ballpark for years. The point is that feminism, like any system of thought, can inspire great works of art or it can inspire propaganda. The movies we've discussed here are movies where the creator's muse was informed by a system of thought. Ghostbusters 2016 appears to be a movie where the creator's muse bowed in subservience to the system of thought, and the difference between the two is staggering. On a closing personal note, many have wondered why I chose to change the focus of my channel to art, music, games, films, and literature, where previously I'd talked about matters of gender relations and sexual politics. I have many reasons, some of which should be intuitively obvious, but one prominent one is this. I spent several hours working on this video, time that could have been spent working on my music or my writing. The video will be seen by two groups of people, those who can understand that I'm trying to make a constructive and hopefully insightful commentary on a divisive issue, and those who will write off my opinion as the mansplaining tantrums of a piss-baby dude bro that can't deal with the fact that his precious childhood doesn't mean shit in the changing modern world. The former group does not need to hear what I have to say, and the latter group does not deserve to. Sadly, the latter group is who this film was made for. This is not about whether or not four women can lead a movie. We've known for decades that they can. This is not about whether or not feminist ideas can be applied successfully to create art. They've been used to create some of the most legendary cinematic blockbusters. It's not about whether or not women can be Ghostbusters. The extended universe of the Ghostbusters is already full of them. This is about what makes good art. And if your overarching motivation in seeing this film is being spiteful towards the people that don't like it, then you don't know what art is or how to appreciate it. Do with that what you will. If you enjoyed this commentary, please help me continue to bring you more content by making a donation to patreon.com/JordanOwen42. Your contribution will help me turn this channel into a hub of libertarian pop culture discussion and current events commentary. Thank you for listening, and as always, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.